Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another CIQ webcast. This week we have an exciting announcement to make, and for that, I have Greg and Robert here with me. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
How's it going?
Doing well. So I know there's a lot of buzz around this the last couple of days. So what exactly is it that we're announcing today? Or was announced that we're talking about today?
So yesterday morning, we announced that we have completed a $26 million capital raise for CIQ, which was led by Two Bear Capital.
That's very exciting, and thank you to Two Bear. So I think the first question that a lot of people are asking right now is, what does this mean for CIQ?
Well, since the beginning of what we set out to do, it's all about people, it's all about customers, and it's about changing how we are building, deploying, and modernizing infrastructure. And that has been our primary kind of goal, our ethos in terms of, everything we've been doing since day one. So this gives us a huge amount of additional opportunity that we can leverage that, and we can really fulfill that vision.
Very nice. From your perspective, Robert, what does it mean for CIQ?
So, taking what Greg said just a step further, our mission has always been to focus on empowering people and that customer and community focus on solving problems. So this just gives us the ability to do that at a faster speed. It adds stability to what we're doing, and it really helps us actually dive in and listen to the customer actually more, and be able to act on it faster.
Yeah, that's the exciting thing for me, is to be able to scale better because we're growing, and be able to actually spend more time with the customer, understand what people are trying to do, understand where the community is headed, and actually bring that back into CIQ and share that so that we can follow what the community wants, what the customers want, and it not just be something that we're off building in a closet by ourselves because we think it's cool. So
We've been really driven by that model and that kind of ideology ever since day one. What caused us all to come together and solve this problem, which originally started as high performance computing, was really focused on customer needs, demands, and major pain points that we were solving. And we had a great vision in this, but it's important to note this vision didn't come from us just kind of just pulling this vision out of thin air, right? This vision came from living in this industry, being part of this industry, talking to customers, peers, collaborators, colleagues, meeting with people. And that whole process really just drove this vision of what it is that we're creating. And we've seen this vision start from kind of high performance computing and just take off from there. And that's what's been so exciting is not only being part of that, not only seeing that, interacting with so many amazing people in the community, but now being able to partner with funding partners that see this vision and they get what it is that we're doing, and being able to all come together to solve this and bring forth innovation, capability, stability, democratization, and support, and everything that organizations and people need in this industry. So it's just super exciting.
Yeah,
very exciting. Sorry, go ahead, Robert.
And I'd add to that. So, and Zane, this was the first conversation me and you ever had, right? So the first time we talked was about, man, I'm frustrated because I can't solve problems and I can't do it fast. Yeah. First conversation I had with Greg was, hey, Greg, I have this really cool problem. You want to kind of help me kind of go solve that problem? Literally our first conversation we ever had. So what I would say is that is the ethos of what this is, right? Marlin, our original seed funder, right? Same conversation. Hey, I want to go solve problems, and this is how I want to do it. And the answer was yes, right? And our original investors, the answer was yes. Now, Two Bear, the answer is go solve those problems at scale. And that's what we're going to go do.
That's exciting. like you said, it's a big part of the reason that I'm here is to be a part of solving problems. It's exciting, and I think the way that a lot of people have started to look at software is more of a, I have an idea, I'm going to solve a problem, but I'm going to do it my way. And I think it's exciting to be here where it is, we have an idea, we want to solve a problem, but maybe there are other things that we should be thinking about, and being able to listen and collaborate with those other people is something that I don't see a lot of others actually doing. They talk about it, but I don't know if they actually do it. And I think a lot of them miss the mark. That's why I'm excited to be here. So kind of continuing down that path, I know when we start talking about Rocky, this is going to be because of CentOS. It's going to be an interesting topic. And I want to understand, how does this impact Rocky and the Rocky Enterprise Software Foundation?
That's a great question. So let me back up a little bit. And I'm going to first talk about kind of why we created, why Rocky came to be, why we were part of it, and what that's going to look like going forward. So as I kind of articulated, just generally, we were focused on infrastructure. We initially set out to solve that infrastructure through high performance computing, and we jokingly called it HPC 2.0 for a while. And I guess we still do it some extent, but we were heads down solving that when the announcement came that CentOS was going to be end of life. Now that affected us. It affected our peers, people that we're talking to, customers, and we felt as though it affected the entire community. So how are we going to move forward? How are we going to deal with this kind of big shock to the system that pretty much everybody in enterprise has now felt? And it became clear that, due to past experience that I had with early days of CentOS, that I could really help to as we recreate this, to guide this in such a way so we can navigate, away from some of the things and some of the, I don't mean to be critical, but some of the mistakes that were made early on with CentOS, navigate through that and take the benefits, all of the amazing things that CentOS was done right, which was so many things, and bring that back into this project and rebuild that. Now, a couple of things that we did different is the structure of the organization, control of that organization, and how are we going to ensure that Rocky is available as a stable foundation for decades to come. And the answer to this lies in one simple kind of focus point, which is community. And when we're talking about a community of a project for enterprise, we're talking about a community of not only individuals, but also enterprises, and everybody coming together to solve and work on that need together. Now, again, the organizational structure that we had to create around this has to be very resilient to any single company doing something negative or adverse to the Rocky Enterprise Software Foundation. And we came up with a really cool model, actually. Now, when we first created Rocky, our first thoughts was, honestly, this was going to be a CIQ project. And I've already had experience with bringing an open source project into a company, and I saw what that did to the community firsthand. It harms the community. It's not good for the community when all the decision making points, all of the people in control of that project are under the umbrella of that company. It needs to be completely distributed. It needs to be everywhere, and everybody being part of this. And so we made a very important decision at that moment, which has affected how we see everything in open source and how we relate that to communities and commercial companies, which is, and the saying is kind of funny, right? If, going back to, if anyone, remembers the old saying, if you love something, set it free.
Set it free.
Right. So that's kind of been our model around open source. If you love something, if you really believe in a project, you don't want to control it under corporate umbrella. You want that project to be completely free of corporate influence, and you want to encourage everybody to come and be part of that, even competitors. You want everybody to be part of that project. And that's the model that we created with Rocky Linux and then the Rocky Enterprise Software Foundation. So CIQ is a founding partner and sponsor of the Rocky Enterprise Software Foundation, but CIQ does not control, own, or hold hostage in any sort of way of Rocky. Rocky is completely in the community. Everything from the entire infrastructure that we've built it, the entire security paradigms, all of the keys, public-private keys for signing, for encryption, secure boot shims, the entire infrastructure is under the RESF. The engineers supporting it and making decisions about it are in the RESF. CIQ's one goal, and not to make this completely about Rocky, but I feel as though some of this is really important. I want to reiterate, CIQ's whole goal is to be here if anybody needs help. And that's our model. That's our business model. That's what we're bringing forth, is we're here if you need help. And the community is there as well. But I mean, if you want an insurance policy, you want a throat to grab if you need, and you need escalation help, we are here. And we want to be that, and we want to help people succeed. That's our model. We're going to create additional value. We're going to create additional services and escalation for Rocky Linux. So all of this is my way of saying that this is going to be nothing but amazing for the Rocky Enterprise Software Foundation and everybody using Rocky Linux. Because what this means is we are now able to put even more money, even more resources and capabilities into Rocky Linux, whether you're community or whether you need help. We are now here and we are putting more emphasis into Rocky Linux. We are not changing anything with regards to how Rocky Linux is managed, is governed, and we're actually going to now help to define that with all of our contributors, all of our developers, our team leads, and also looking at our partners and sponsors. So if you haven't seen the Rocky Enterprise Linux software sponsors and partner list, you should take a look at it. I mean, the model was we want everybody being part of that community. And we've been really successful so far, and that's still growing. So that's our goal. This is going to be nothing but amazing for the Rocky Enterprise Software Foundation, Rocky Linux, and all of those users in that entire community. And so nothing's changing on that front except for more awesomeness.
Very nice. And I think it's important to point out that the stuff that was done with CentOS was out of necessity. It was small because things didn't exist the way they do today. It's easier to have a larger shared community. I mean, the internet's come a long way in 20 years. So being able to collaborate, have more people be involved, be able to get resources to do builds, it's just something that wasn't quite available the way that it is today. So it's exciting to see how open things have become and how people can contribute to it in a meaningful way that maybe wasn't available as a part of a lesson learned from CentOS. So
that's really, that's a really important point, Zane. You know, the culture of early CentOS was shaped that way. I mean, the goal was always community, but you know, it was very hard to extend the circle of trust when we're talking about things like private keys with the community at large. So we had to kind of keep it small early on, but that created a culture of CentOS that was difficult to break out of. And part of that, it made it very easy for a single organization to acquire CentOS simply by hiring a small number of people. So we are creating an organization, and again, not to make this about RESF, but just to demonstrate, RESF is a whole series of checks and balances within that organization. So there's no way that this could be that any single organization can have a negative effect on that series of checks and balances. What this creates is more value, and it's more value to the community first and foremost.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So kind of stepping away from the Rocky conversation and looking at the rest of CIQ, as a part of this funding, what can we expect to see over this next 6, 9, 12 months coming out of this because of the raise?
Robert, you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to take what Zane and Greg said one further on the open source aspects, obviously um, we're involved in more than just the Rocky community. We're involved in the Aptainer, formerly Singularity community. We're involved in the Werewolf community. Obviously, we have a next generation compute platform that we're going to bring out to the general public here very rapidly. So there's multiple different investments that we're making to secure, stabilize, and make it easier for people to get involved in every single one of these open source projects. So we want to tie them together, the solutions to form a solution, whether it's traditional HPC, whether it's a next generation HPC stack, whether it's infrastructure 2.0. So we have large plans, and we're able to now execute on those plans at scale and to bring forth our vision of tying this together in a meaningful way. So it's just getting accelerated, and our next 3, 6, 9 months, you're going to see a lot of multiple different offerings that are productized from us coming to market that just enhances each one of these communities, enhances what people can do at each one of those different communities.
I want to add to that a little bit. Robert concluded that piece on communities. That is such a big piece of how we see the world. Open source is just critical to the success of almost every organization at this point. And it is so critical that open source is something that can be relied upon, it can be leveraged, and it can be enhanced and developed upon. And that is one of the absolute core reasons why a huge chunk of this investment is going to be going back into that open source community, back into those tools, back into that foundation that we leverage, our customers leverage, the community leverages. And that's us doing our part to be part of that and to support that. So you will see us making additional hires. You're going to see us making growth, a considerable amount of growth, and really focusing on the stability of these open source projects and putting more resources into these open source projects. Not for the sake of owning or controlling, for the sake of making sure that the entire community has this stable foundation. And again, our models, if you need any help, we're here to help. Give us a call. Let us prove it to you.
Yeah,
so that's great.
I'll add one
Go
thing
ahead,
to that, Zane. Sorry.
No,
Because this is actually really important to understand in my mind too. So this is an investment from teams of investors that believe in us and what we're doing. But every time somebody does business with us, the exact same thing happens. So what Greg just described isn't just an investor investing in us. It's every time somebody does business with us, we do the exact same thing. So just remember that our ethos doesn't change because an investor gave us money. It is the exact same model as a customer investing in us and using us as their escalation points, using us to solve a problem, using us to enable and empower what they're doing. So that's what we're doing. So just by doing business with us, the exact same thing Greg just said is going to be reiterated over and over again.
And I think seeing the model that we have is different than most other software companies out there in terms of the way that they support software and we support people. It's something that's bringing more and more customers in. And as those customers come in, obviously we need to scale. So that's becoming important as well, which kind of goes back to Greg's earlier point of we are growing. And I want to make sure that we tell everybody, like, where are we growing? What types of people are we looking for? And how is that going?
Oh, it is across the spectrum right now. We are looking to scale up the company pretty much on every aspect of the company. So we are looking for Linux developers. We're looking for SREs. We're looking for Golang developers, solutions architects, sales, IT, management. Oh my goodness, the entire spectrum of the organization. And in terms of projects that we're working on, we're working obviously if people are interested in joining in any of those sorts of areas and they're interested in things like Rocky Linux. What are we doing there in the enterprise Linux space? What are we doing with containers via Apptainer and Singularity? What are we doing with operating system provisioning and imaging? And if people are interested in being part of that, absolutely. We are growing, and we are so looking forward to speaking with people that are really passionate about these areas. And there's even more, right? As we're looking forward, we're starting off kind of in the HPC space and figuring out how do we take compute, that same compute model that has been leveraged for the last, near 30 years. How do we take that model, modernize it, and continue to grow it, stabilize it? Jokingly, as I said, we call it HPC 2.0, but how do we take that model now and start applying that to cloud? How do we take that and apply it to enterprise, hyperscalers, and how do we continuously grow and innovate that entire infrastructure, an entire global infrastructure? And that's really what we are so passionate about, is building that infrastructure, creating that next generation of infrastructure 2.0.
So
Oh, that
Dan,
sounds so cliche.
the second conversation me and you had was what? Hey, when you come here, I want your opinion. I want you to set strategy. I want you to tell us what the customer is saying over and over again. So what Greg just said, every one of our engineers, we have a very flat organization. If you want a place where your ideas are going to be heard and you're part of the strategy, that's the type of people we're looking for. So, if that's the type of environment you're looking for, we're looking for those types of folks.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to take this one step even further, which is what kind of problems are we solving for the community? Now, coming out of high performance computing, this has always been an extraordinarily interesting question. Half the time when I'm meeting with other people in HPC, I'm meeting, asking questions and understanding their research, understanding their science. And I mean, the types of scientific problems and research problems that we have actually supported, helped to solve, and helped to accelerate is massive. Our customers include, and people using our projects include everything from medical science, people looking to cure diseases, people looking to solve real problems that affect everybody in the world, going all the way through cutting edge technology, aerospace, sending software into outer space. Right? I mean, this whole thing, everything that we're doing is about solving not only very technically challenging problems, but extraordinarily rewarding problems. And this has been not only our ethos, but our entire goal in terms of why are we doing this? And, a lot of organizations just talk about this, and they put something out there. I'm going to say, this is such a guiding principle for us. It is so critical and so core to our culture that we are helping people. We are empowering people such that they can go off and they can do the most amazing things that you can imagine. That's what we're doing. Yeah, and we are looking for people to join us that share that vision and that enthusiasm.
Yeah, I would tell you too, it's not going to stop at these open source solutions as well. So I know we already contribute to other open source solutions that people probably aren't aware of, and other investments and growth that we're going to invest in is going to expand upon that even further. So the reality is this doesn't end with what we're talking about. We're going to grow and continuously add capabilities to the communities and people that we serve. So this doesn't stop with just where we're at today.
It's exciting. And I've also been very excited to bring in some interesting, not necessarily what we would think of as a traditional use case for what we're doing, but actually bring in use cases that that are just interesting. And they look at our product and see that it solves a problem for them. And it's maybe not what we were thinking about to begin with, and kind of to see how that's gone, and just the excitement behind us working with other people to solve real world problems. It's been fun. I see we have a question from Justin is how do I apply? So one easiest place to go is to ciq.co. There is a careers page on there. We will actually add that at the bottom here in a little bit and find what interests you. Go ahead and send in your resume and let us talk to you and see where you would fit and what you're interested in doing. That's a great thing about being here as well is obviously we're still small and growing. So having, like Robert said, a voice into what we're doing and being able to share experiences and ideas and knowledge is something that we really look forward to and welcome. So it's not a siloed off thing.
I'm going to add to that too. You know, even if you're at a place where you love to be and you're not looking to move, join our communities. And they're not, I even said that wrong. It's not our communities. Join the communities. Be part of open source. Be part of these things that are, you know, passionate to us, passionate to other people, and just join and just be part of it. I think what you'll find is there are so many like-minded people that are so excited to actually help others and really just be part of this movement of people helping each other through software and giving that back to the world. It really is an amazing thing. I've been playing and being part of open source since the mid to late 90s, about 96, 97. And yeah, I'm that old. And it's been a remarkable journey to watch not only how communities and open source has now changed how we think about software, how we think about anything with regards to actually software development, building things, and how that community has so massively influenced everything we're doing in the commercial space, in the enterprise space, in the computing space, federal and academia. It really is amazing. And the open source community has now matured to such a point in which it's a joy to be part of. So I would encourage everybody, join open source, be part of open source. If you want to get paid for working on open source projects, look us up.
Yeah, that's something that I think that most people, or not most people, a lot of people that I run across the enterprise are excited about open source. They aren't necessarily developers at a level where they're writing middleware or whatever that piece is. So they think that there's no way for them to get involved. And I think it's important to know that there are far more ways to get involved than just writing code. I mean, being able to just identify bugs is important. Being able to write documentation is important. Being a tester is important. And being able to give back in that way. So, I mean, like Greg said, joining a community and helping, there are a lot of different roles out there that you can contribute back from.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's the funding marks a really interesting pivot point for us as an organization, as we're kind of graduating now from early stage startup to a much more mature company at this point. And in doing so, it's been amazing to watch the transformation kind of occurring right before our eyes. And it's remarkable. If anybody watching this has not had the opportunity to see this sort of thing in action and to be part of a small organization, a small community that's actually funded to go and do amazing things, it's fun. It is a lot of fun. I spent a long time in Department of Energy and federal space and academia, and this is like that, while holding down the fast forward key and moving as quickly as we can, and really making an impact and making a difference on the world, and seeing that. One of the coolest things that I love to see, and I've been lucky and very fortunate to be part of various open source projects, but one of the things that I've seen that is just so amazing, and I love this, is when I start looking at resumes that are coming in and other job descriptions, and I start to see the project names that I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to be part of starting to show up, like just in normal conversation, and seeing other people presenting, and then showing that these tools and these capabilities were beneficial to them as part of their research and part of their growth. So a lot of really cool aspects about being part of a young organization and a startup organization. So again, we are looking for people in the industry that are just amazing and that want to be part of something like this, want to help other people, want to be part of open source. This funding gives us that ability to now scale up massively. So now's the time to join if you're interested.
So Greg, I know I've run across people who have made the change from writing enterprise code that is in some way proprietary, for lack of a better term, proprietary software that maybe it gets sold, maybe it's in-house, and then they move into an open source world and it changes their view of how software gets written. What experience have you seen from that perspective?
I've definitely experienced the same sort of comments from people that have come from commercial industry, and even federal space where they can't open source things if they're working under some level of clearance or controls. So it is very free, and that's the way I would describe it. There's always, there's some pros and cons, of course, just like anything, but the pros are so massive in comparison to those cons, and being able to leverage that and be part of that. We talked a little bit about the mantra of, if you love something, set it free. And I've consulted for a number of companies at this point about their open source model and how are they approaching open source. And I like to use this analogy, which is maybe not analogy, but this way of describing it, which is if you're not ready for your competitors, for other organizations to actually be more successful with your open source project than you are, then you're not ready to open source it. Don't open source it. There's nothing wrong with keeping something commercial, keeping something closed source. And there's lots of really good reasons why an organization would want to do that. But if you are ready for that grand leap, and you're ready to open source it, and you're ready to do that, then you should do it in such a way that doesn't hold it hostage. You should do it in such a way that is completely open and allow the community to develop, because that community will drive something we talk a lot about in startups is product market fit. That community will drive that product market fit. It will go where the need is if you support it and if you don't hold it hostage. And so there's a lot of value in being part of open source. But I want to be clear, not everything has to be open source. So at some point, we are going to release open source. What we're working on in terms of the software side of Infrastructure 2.0, Fuzzball, that will be released open source at some point in the future. We're not ready to open source it yet. And when we do, we're already looking forward to that moment. And we're looking forward to being able to leverage that infrastructure such that as that continues to help other people and continues to grow, the more value that it creates for people is all the more reason why open sourcing it will become more and more important over time. Hopefully all that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I've had several friends that if they are working on enterprise software, they will get involved in an open source project, maybe because it's running their software, and they will spend more time at home at night writing and fixing things that they want it to do or things that they think that it should do. And then it becomes an addiction and they start looking for somewhere else to write code. So it's always exceeding. It's interesting to see that transition of people get the freedom to work on things they want to work on that they find interesting, far more than I have to go write this thing today. So
yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is sometimes I don't, bring it down to this level. If you take it up even one more level, I just like to solve big problems with cool people. At the end of the day, like, it's that simple. Like, it is fun to go do something complex and see it work. If it's open source, if it's enterprise, just don't care. Like, we are going after big problems, and we're going to continuously expand that and solve them.
That's great. So Justin had another question asking, what are we going to do with the funding? A little more of a direct question.
This question's great. We actually get it quite often. So we've done a lot of media interviews over the past couple weeks now. Every single media is asking this question. Every single author and person writing content is asking this question. And so it's a really good question. What are we going to be doing with the funding? We talked about hiring already, but I think this really comes down to, and I think the way we need to kind of describe it is a couple fold. The hiring is going to be driving several strategic kind of initiatives. The biggest one is that the demand we have coming in is massive, and we want to be able to accelerate to meet that demand. This is probably the number one best case scenario for why somebody would want to ever raise money, is you have the demand already, and now you're growing and escalating such that you can meet that demand. We've seen such an amazing amount of uptake from Rocky Linux, which is the number that we've been able to really drive down on in terms of a reliable figure, is at least 250,000 downloads per month. And if you think of how many installs that is, it's a massive amount of installs. It's a lot. And we're trying at this point to keep up with that, because I'm not going to say, a large percentage or the majority or anything like that is now looking for support, because most people are used to not having that support in CentOS. So most people that are transitioning from CentOS aren't thinking of it from a support perspective. But what we're finding is, if you couple a really good customer focused model with appropriate value adds that add value to that open source community, we're seeing uptake. We're getting inquiries. We're getting requests. We're starting to see all of these things starting to go through procurement processes. We actually have to meet those demands now. So best case scenario for why you would ever want to raise money is demand is there and you have to meet it. You have to scale up for that. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. So we're scaling up to meet the demand that we're seeing. We're also going to be accelerating certain pieces of our roadmap in terms of features, in terms of capability. We have not only on the Rocky side, but on the Fuzzball side, which is the HPC 2.0 cloud platform that we have now developed. We're seeing so much interest in that. It's hard for us even to keep up with that. And so we have been following with that as quickly as we can and managing the requests coming in for POCs. But we are in early user access right now with POCs. We're going to have a press release here coming out as this thing goes GA, probably later Q3-ish. And so that's going to happen here pretty soon. But all of this funding is going to help accelerate all these things. It's going to help drive customer success, meet customer demand, and really just help us scale out as an organization. Robert, I've been talking a lot. Is there anything you want to add on that, or Zane?
I mean, I'll just put a little bit of depth to it from a different perspective. I mean, we have a CTO that blows me away every time I talk to him, right? We have a noted Linux author on staff now. We have young engineers that are beyond brilliant that invest 18 to 24 hours a day to build systems and get things out, right? We just hired a new VP of engineering that just absolutely blew me away yesterday, right? So we have a VP of services that blows me away every time I talk to him. He has a team of people that are helping our customers every day that blow me away. So never have to ask people to do things twice. Everybody jumps. Everybody's doing things in their own labs. The only thing I would say is that I'm always before Greg when it comes to the latest releases of Rocky. He's usually asking me questions, just making that point. And I have Rocky on more systems than he does right now. But at the end of the day, we just like to have fun. And there's a lot of great people that we're just going to add to this staff that are going to do great things.
many
You all
Rocky
heard
machines
it.
How many Rocky machines do you have, Robert?
I am Robert's escalation support team. You all heard it. No, he's mine.
That's fantastic. So I think Richard had an idea where he would like to see some of the money go as well. Really, really high quality liquor. So I think that's all the questions. It's all the questions that I had for you guys. We're kind of up on time. Any closing comments other than thank you, Two Bear? We really appreciate it. Looking forward to where this takes us and the journey ahead.
I've got a little bit, yeah. So, Two Bear led this round, absolutely, but they are by no means the only investors in this round. We actually have a great group of investors, and we're going to be releasing PRs here shortly. That's going to highlight some of these other investors that are part of what it is that we're doing. We're also going to be releasing additional PRs on some of the team members that we have now that are joining us. Advisory board members that have joined, and I am so looking forward to being able to share all of this. And you're going to see this coming very soon. So pay attention, watch out for this. And if you want to be part of one of the coolest things that I've ever done, and actually a couple of them between Rocky, between other open source projects, CIQ, and be part of all of this, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you.
Very nice. Robert, anything to close with?
No, just grateful for all of our investors and the partnerships that every single one of them are already starting to engage with us on and working extremely closely with us to help solve problems for all of their friends and people that can utilize all the solution sets that we have.
It's fantastic. So thank you guys very much for joining. Thank you to our investors and to our team internally that is growing. Like we said, there's a lot of these people that put in a lot of time to make this machine work, and we really appreciate it. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that most people don't know about. So to all of you, we really appreciate it, and thank you, and thanks for the continued effort. We will add the links below for how to find a job from us. And if you ever need anything else, reach out. There's a link on there. You can get in contact with us. We'd be happy to talk to you and see how we can help. And we will see you again next week. Thank you very much.
Bye.